Welcome back to the channel, everyone. And if you still care, I hope you had a happy May the 4th. It's always an interesting day for me personally. I want to make new content because of all the new Star Wars announcements that came on that day, but it's also my wedding anniversary. And as much as I love Star Wars, celebrating that day with my wife is always a priority. So a day late, $1 short here on Cinqo de Mayo, which 80% of the country here in Mexico just don't care about, and almost 100% of the US does for some reason. It is a perfect time for me to look back and comment on 2024's State of the Star Wars Union. Yesterday, Disney released a promo video for May the 4th. It was mostly filled with the new Disney Star Wars. It was trying to be flattering to the fans, letting us know we are the reason they exist, which is correct. You can't argue that. However, it was not authentic. It was not genuine. In fact, it felt disingenuous after everything that we've been told about our original fandom over the last few years, that it soured a lot of the goodwill I had on this May the 4th, 2024. Let me explain. I am an OG Star Wars fan. I was only 4 years old in 1977 when I saw the first film. I have seen, read, collected, and played with every piece of merch that was produced since that day. So May the 4th is a day that I still sit and watch A New Hope at some time. It is still a day that I reminisce about being a kid, the day I got my early bird special, the day I got my first vehicle, Luke's Landspeeder, the birthday when I got the Death Star playset, the day I first sat down with my own children and showed them the original trilogy before bringing them to the Phantom Menace premiere. And I remember the dark times, the day I realized that my entire collection of Star Wars toys, figures, exclusives, items that were never opened, was stolen. And yes, 35 years later, it still sucks as much now as it did then. The Star Wars Christmas special, the Ewok television movies, the day Lucas sold his creation to Disney, the release of the Disney trilogy, and here's where being a Star Wars fan became difficult. And let's be clear, just because you are critical of the Disney era does not mean you are not still a Star Wars fan. Actually, it just means you're a true fan. True fans don't just gobble up what's next without caring for what came before. True fans are not afraid to defend their fandom, defend their loyalty to something that, until geek culture became mainstream, was something that you got mocked, ridiculed, and sometimes even beaten up for loving. Yes, the 80s had a real problem with nerds.
Nerds!
Where are they? I think they're talking about us. No way.
Unlike today, being a sci-fi nerd was something you had to accept as potentially harmful. But then the turn of the century came, and it seemed like people were beginning to embrace nerd culture. It was becoming accepted. It was becoming cool to be a nerd. What it was is that nerd fandom is profitable. Very profitable. So nerd fandom was not being accepted. It was being assimilated into the corporate world like a pop culture hostile takeover. And now, being an OG Star Wars fan is like being a father of a divorced family. The kids live with their mother now, and you still pay for everything, and you only get to do something cool with them every other weekend, at best. The pop culture love of my life now lives with Disney. Our kids are growing up without me, and when I see them every now and again, we just don't get along very well. In fact, the kids blame me for everything that is going wrong in their lives. I'm a toxic fan, according to their new mom. And sure, we still have our moments. Mando Season 1 and 2, Rogue One, and it gives us the hope to keep trying, to keep connected. But most of our days are just filled with the Revas and the Rays and the Ryan Johnsons, the stepdads and distant aunts taking care of our kids in our place and teaching them to dislike their original family, to reject us outright. So yes, we, the so-called toxic fans, the ones that carried the fandom throughout the 80s and 90s and into the new century, are the bad guys now. I know this because Disney tells me this all the time when I or any of my fellow toxic fans voice an opinion about something we don't like. Star Wars fans, the most accepting, inclusive fan base you could ever find in the pop culture world, and it is not a knock on Star Trek. I love you people too, but the most inclusive fan base, the most loyal fan base, most generous fan base ever to coalesce together is for some reason now called things like racist, sexist, homophobic? I guess Harvey Dent was right. You either die a hero or live long enough to see yourself become the villain. Are we racist? From day one, I never had an issue with Lando. In fact, one of my favorite characters in the original trilogy. I think it's safe to say most fans like myself do not see color. We saw an awesome character in a great story. And Finn, he's the most likable character in the sequel trilogy, for me at least. So yeah, Moses Ingram's character and performance in the Obi-Wan Kenobi series was just one of 100 problems with that series, and it had nothing to do with her skin color or her sex. But again, remember, true fans are honest. The problem is that the egos of those in charge can't accept looking in a mirror and accepting that they made a crappy product. So easy, blame fans, call us toxic, okie dokie. Are we sexist? This one makes me laugh. I was a 4-year-old boy excited for a Princess Leia action figure. I mean, really, does anything else scream sexism more than a young boy playing with a female action figure? Homophobic? I think it's safe to say that most of us, and I won't speak for all of us because there are always a few bad apples in every bunch, but most of us could care less about an actor's or actress's sexuality. What we do care about is when the things that we love are taken and altered because there is an inability to create something new to represent the current day message. It's not about alternative lifestyles. It's about respecting what came before instead of destroying it in an effort to build yourself up. Because, let's face it, if Disney made a Star Wars film that, from the outset, was open and honest about being less of an entertainment product and more of a promotion for social justice issues, it would fail. It would not make any money. Not many would actually consume it. But the true sadness about being a Star Wars fan is this. These are the same arguments we've heard for a long time now. And it seems there's no middle ground to find common understanding between the two sides. And this stalemate inevitably brings up the question that everyone asks all the time. Is Star Wars dead? The answer? No. Star Wars is not dead. I'm still here. The millions of fans just like me are still here. We still love what we love. Yes, there's not much to cheer about lately. There's not much to look forward to, but that does not mean Star Wars is dead. Look, Disney cannot kill Star Wars. Only the fans who gave it life on May 25th, 1977 and afterward can do that. And there are plenty of those who like the new stuff, and that's okay. Really, from this OG Star Wars fan to the new ones, yes, the original trilogy belongs to my generation, like the prequels belong to my children, and now the sequels belong to you. Do I like the direction that Disney Star Wars is going? No. Do I like how the fan base is divided? No, I do not. But to all of my OG and prequel fan brothers and sisters, no matter what Disney does, no matter how divisive it becomes, they cannot kill a fandom. Only the fans can do that. And yes, a lot have walked away. A lot, like me, are sitting on the sidelines watching and waiting. And yes, Star Wars has failed to turn a profit for Disney, which is a telling sign that the fandom is ill, but dying? Disney's not big enough to kill my fandom. They don't have that kind of power over me. A New Hope, Empire, Jedi, the childhood I had, the friends that I made through conventions and collecting, the things I passed down to my own children. Disney cannot kill these things. They just don't have that kind of power over me. All Disney can do is hurt themselves, which they're doing a fine job of. So, on this weekend of May the 4th and going forward, remember what you love about Star Wars. Forget about all the crap that has come along in the past 10 years, all the vitriol, all the infighting. Remember what brought you to this galactic dance. Just get out your copy of the original trilogy, the prequels, or even the sequels, if that is what you love. Hit play, and for just a couple of hours, sit back and recall the way you felt when you first saw it. And remember, no matter what, Disney or any other corporation out there cannot ever take that away from you. And with that, I just want to say happy Star Wars weekend, everyone. And from south of the border, I'm still your reluctant gringo. Salud and a huevo.